Hi, this is Jason here at Phrygian Frog, and I've had a lot of questions about working with audio in Studio One 5, so let's dive in. First, you can use audio loops that are included in the software, depending on what version you have. If you go to Studio One Installations, this box will pop up, and you can see what you have available to you. If you have the Prime version, Artist version, or Professional version, you would want to choose those and download those by hitting the Install button. Now, if you click this little button here and click on the instruments, it'll tell you whether they've been installed or not. Some of these are quite big. I had the Professional version, so some of these will take a lot of space up, as you could tell. Here's the Artist library and so on. But you want to make sure those are there before you start working with loops. And here's loop libraries. Those are ones literally included in the DAW, and all DAWs will have that kind of cool feature. All right, next, I hit new song and this popped up. I'm going to title this Working with Audio Files, and I want to make sure that 48 is chosen. Why? 48 is often what audio files you would go get somewhere would be in. That's the sample rate. If you paid for high-res files, they may be 96K, so check your files to see what kind you have. 24-bit is what I'm going to choose for resolution. It's better to start higher than lower. You can work with lower samples with a higher starting sample rate and resolution, but if you try to work with higher samples, you won't get the audio quality from them if you choose something too low here. So it's important to know what kind of audio files you're working with. Most free samples and included ones in the DAW will have these settings. Yes, you could go 32-bit, 64-bit. That's for another time. Basically, those are inside the box only. Your speakers can only produce 24-bit, 16-bit, but these are basically the same thing as 24-bit on the way out. But when you're working on inside the DAW, that's what those are for. And finally, if you know your tempo, put it here. This will save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches in the future. Make sure this box is checked. Stretch audio files to song tempo. The odds of you finding a bunch of samples with the exact same tempo you're using are going to be questionable. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to go to about 110. 80 is a little slow I'm going to go for more of a rock style here. 4/4 is my time. Haven't decided on a key yet, and I'm going to hit OK. Once I'm in here, on this side over here, there is a browse menu. I'm going to go to the loops, and you can go up here or here. Now, with the loops that are included, I've got one open already. You could sort them by style, by instrument, by character, and each one of these has a drop-down menu you could change. You can also search, which we'll do in just a second. I like to build my mix from usually the groove, which is the bass and the drums. So I've got the bass and the drums ready to go and rock and roll here. And I'm going to go and try to find something that I could either build one shots if I want. I'm just going to look for mainly just a loop here and something that's fun. So I'm going to kind of scroll through here. I'm going to see what they have, and I'm going to start listening. Now, if I want to listen, down here at the bottom, I could mess with the volume of what I'm hearing. I'm going to leave the loop on so it keeps playing it over and over again. We call this auditioning. It tells us a lot about the track, including the sample rate and bit depth that it was in. As well, there is a play and stop button, and then this tempo right here is playing it at your song tempo, which is great. So there we go, and that is the WAV file. I don't think I want that, of course. Oh, that's kind of nice. That's a little verse thing. Okay, that sounds great. So I've decided on that, and I'm going to go ahead and grab it and drag it and drop it. Now it's there. It's at the beginning of my track. I'm going to call this my drums. There it is. Now I'm going to hit D for duplicate. And what I did there is I just copied it. I just copied it all the way through to measure 8 now. Now I'm going to create a play loop here at the very top. I'm going to draw it in, and I'm going to hit play down here in the bottom bar. And what that's going to do is when it gets to the end of measure 8 here, instead of going on to measure 9, it's going to go back to the beginning. Now, the reason I'm doing that is this. I really would like a crash in there every once in a while. So here's where I use my search button. I like to search for crash symbols. So crash symbol. And there it is. So now I see a whole bunch here. It's searching my loops. And yes, you could search your own hard drive and stuff like that. That's using the files menu. But I'm just, a lot of these need to be turned down. Okay. Oh, that's not bad. So I found one I kind of like. I want that to happen around measure 5. Now, when I say turn down, let me open this and make it bigger. I might want to go ahead and grab this handle here and just turn it down by decibel-wise a little bit so it blends in. I could do that with any and all samples that I use, okay? If these samples were not the same, these drum samples here, there we go. There's other things I could do. For example, I'm going to go to measure 5. I'm going to hit X, and what I just did, I'm going to zoom way in using the triangle down here. Zoom way in until you see I just crossfaded those two samples together. Now, I didn't need to do that because there was nothing coming into measure 5, so I could undo that. But if I was butting up two samples next to each other that were different, and this one was really loud and this is really soft, I could create pops and stuff that I don't want in my music. So that's crossfading. It's very important. You could do it manually by grabbing the little handles here and pulling them, or select both, hold shift and select both and hit X, and it creates a crossfade for you. Now I don't want those, so I'm going to hit Control Z to get rid of all of them. All right, so now I've kind of found what I want here. I'm going to click on this to get out of there. I'm going to go back up now to my bass because I feel like I've got a good idea of what I wanted there. Now I just want to find bass. Now notice that it tells us some of the notes that are part of it. So here's one that tells us the notes. What if I want to try it out with the drum groove? If I hit play and play, it's going to line them up, okay, which is fantastic. I'm going to back this off. Here we go. Yeah, all right. So I like that, and it tells me what notes: D, F, G, and B flat. So I'm going to bring it in here. I like that as my bass. So I don't want that to come in right away. I want that to start at measure 5. Here's another thing I could do with loops. I could turn it up and down. I like to name my stuff right away. I also like to make sure all of my drums are the same color. That's just me. And my bass needs to be a different color so I can really see the difference very quickly. All right, now I'm going to duplicate this bass here, and I'm going to duplicate these two tracks. I'm just going to go like that and hit D. I want this bass to change notes. I want it, instead of starting on D, I want it to start on G. To do that, if I am on here, notice it's on time lock right now. That's because I've brought it in. I'm going to bounce the selection to where I can mess with it now. Okay, there we go. So now that I've bounced it, let me take that back. That was a mono, so I'm going to change my channel mode to mono. Now I'm going to bounce it into place, and it's going to stay mono. There we go, because you typically want your bass to be in mono. So that way it stays in the middle of the mix, doesn't get too crazy. Now I have these features, and notice the transpose button is here. So if D was the first note, if I say 1, the next note's E flat. It's going to be, and then F sharp, and then G sharp, and then B. Well, I don't want that. I actually want to go all the way up to 5. So I want to transpose all of these notes up 5 half steps. So that's going to give me completely different notes. That's going to give me a G and a B flat and a C and an E flat. So when I do that and I hit OK, notice the difference when I play here. As soon as we get to measure 9, I'm going to turn off the loop. Notice how it started higher that time. Yeah. Now, I might want to remind myself that this one has the notes G, and I think I mentioned what they were before, B flat, C, and E flat on them, because I transposed them. There's where music theory comes in. If you don't know how to do that, there's multiple ways of looking that up online of how to transpose music with half steps, or you can use a piano and just count half steps. From a D up to a G would be 5 half steps in between those notes. So that's the basics of working internally with loops. Now, I could do all kinds of things with them if I'd like. If I say I want to shorten this symbol a little bit, I could trim it back a bit. I can even fade it out a little bit quicker if I want to. Those are things that are common things that you could do. If I want to change this groove, I could use the old copy, right click, copy, go to my timeline to bar 13, right click and say paste, and now I'm back to that original groove back on D. All right, so now I like it. I have other instruments in here that are in the rock genre. I don't have to choose them. I can go to some other styles here and find something else. But, I may want to find some guitar or whatever. So why not use some loops outside of the DAW? And that's what I want to show you now. So if you simply go to any wonderful browser and type in Music Radar Samples or free samples, you're going to find and get to this page. And that's a lot of samples, by the way. You're going to fill up your hard drive very quick. So when you download these, they're alphabetical and so on. These are royalty free. You want to be careful not to fill up your hard drive. These come in a zip file. You should not try to use them until you've unzipped the zip file. If you don't know how to do that, go check that out. There's a couple different ways to do it on PC versus Mac. You also need to have a plan. What are you looking for? You look for drums and bass? Are you looking for guitars? Are you looking for atmosphere stuff? Whatever. Here's some guitar stuff as well. Well, I have downloaded some and I'm going to pull those up now for you, and I've unzipped the folder. So here they are. I've downloaded some for Music Radar and just atmosphere samples. I thought that might be kind of cool to have a pad type sound in the background. Here they are. If I go to them and listen to them, I can, but I can't audition them in the DAW with my stuff. Well, there's a better way to do it. I'm going to keep track of where I found these, and I'm going to use the Files menu here instead to find that Music Radar atmosphere sample. So here I go. This is a lot like your browser on Windows or Mac or your Finder, and instead you're doing it all from the Files menu here. So I located the hard drive, and now I found the samples I've wanted to look at. And this is kind of a rock thing. I'm looking more for a pad type of thing, and I don't know what I want yet, but I want to audition some of these. So I'm going to make sure I turn my loop thing back on up here as I'm auditioning these, and I've got music going all the way to here, so I'll turn that on. And when I try one of these out, I'll make sure the loop here is on, and when I hit play, I could try some of them out and hit play over here. I've turned them down. I'm thinking a softer pad might be a better way to go here. All right. Okay, I found something that might work. Now, it may not be in the right key, and that's a problem. So how do I get in the right key? Well, I'm going to show you all of that now. So I'm going to bring this pad in, and I'm going to kind of let it build up from the beginning here. Now, I am going to turn it down right away. It's too loud. How do I know what key it's in? Well, I'm on this pad here. If I go to the mix window, I could simply put a tuner on here, and I'm going to use my tuner to try to figure out what note that's in. And that's a C. Okay. Now, while that's fantastic, I don't want C. My bass riff right here was in D. So a D is going to fit much better. So that's where I right click. How do I get from C to D? I'm going to transpose it up 2 half steps. Now you can transpose stuff down. You would just use a -2 to go down 2 half steps. But I want to go up 2. Now let's kind of listen to it. See, it's a different pitch right now. All right, so now that I've got that going, I like it, but I do want it to kind of continue. So I'm going to hit D for duplicate. And I don't want it to really, I want to overlap these a little bit too. Yes, you could do that. That's fine. So I overlapped those samples a little bit. So when I get here, just to give you an idea. Now, since I did that, I do want to create a little crossfade, or use X to create that little crossfade in there so it's a little bit smoother. Yeah, and I think I'm going to scoot it back just a little. I'm going to take this one and scoot it back just a little bit more. So there we go. You can see the crossfade there. Now, that crossfade's a little much, so I'm going to kind of pull it in a little bit. I think it was just too much overall. Find a good spot to where it doesn't, it's not as noticeable, and you can edit all those things. Now I also want to take the end of it and kind of trim it up this way too. All right, and what I could do then is merge all this together using G, and there you go. Now I'm going to trim it again, and try to get it around measure 7. There we go. Now I've got a pretty good something that I could duplicate and then scoot back and kind of crossfade in there, a good loop that I've used. Now the problem is when I get to here, I may want to change it because I'm on D right now. It may not fit well with the chord change G, B flat, C, and E groove that's going on in the bass. The harmony change, I should say. So I may want to take that and say, oh, I just want that much there. And I think I still need to crossfade those in there. There we go. And need to crossfade that a little bit better. This one here, I want to go ahead and bounce so I could play with it more. There we go. There we go. I kind of like that better already. There we go. Yeah, and now that I've got that there, I might want to try to decide, okay, do I want to take something here and blend it in this way? Whoopsie. I took that one off of there. Let me stretch that back out. This one I might want to kind of cross in this way. There we go. Before I do that, though, there's destructive and non-destructive. I need to bounce that out. Trim it, and there we go. That's a better blend already, I could tell just by looking at it. I mean, the D's not bad right there. What I could do is change the note here, and I do a little bit more trimming and so on. And right here, if that's the case, I could change the note. Or I don't have to change it there. I could change it in the middle of the measure too. That might kind of be cool. Like right in here, let's just leave it for a second. I could change my note right up. I'm going to bring it back here. And so that's how to overlap some loops and pads that are like a drone that's just sitting there. Oh, let's just say right here. So I need to create a split point like that. Let's do a negative. So instead of that, I'm going to do a -2 there on that one and see if I like that better. Yeah, I kind of do actually. So then once I've got that down, I'm just going to grab all of this and duplicate it. There we go. And that way, boom, I'm back to the original idea there. That's how to bring in and literally drag and drop in stuff from your file menu in the browse and then edit them and play with them. Now let's do one more. So I've downloaded and I'm using in standalone mode Loopcloud. There's free and paid versions of it. I did get a welcome pack, which was kind of cool, and a free registration pack as well. What's great about this is you could search in many different ways. You could search by key and so on, but you noticed how easy it was to change the key of something. That's something you want to match up as your key signatures, but you don't necessarily have to use a sample that starts in the exact same key as you do. Now, what I'm thinking is I'm going to look for instruments. And I wouldn't mind maybe a keyboard or a piano instrument of some kind. And there's everything from synths to keyboards to guitars might sound good to this. So I'm gonna go look at piano just as an example here. And I've got a whole bunch of different pianos. Wow, right? And so to listen to them, I can be, that's a little much for me. Okay, and it tells you, of course, a lot of information. That's in A minor. Well, that may I have to transpose it. I want to make sure my tempo is the same. I'll show you how to change that. But let me just find something nice and easy I could use here. So I'm looking for something a little more rock based. And since I'm looking for something a little more rock based, I have wave, I have piano up here. Now I want to look kind of by style here, just to see what I could find there. So now I've got 3 parameters set, just to see if I can find something that's going to fit my style better with what I want. Okay, so I found a little loop here that's in my library already, and it's short, it's sweet. I've got it at the tempo that I want. And that's all I want. So there's a handle on this. So now that I've got what I want, I could transpose it if I wanted to, but I found one in G here. So I'm going to minimize this a little bit here, or at least try to. There we go. And I'm going to drag it to a new track over here. So I've got my handle here, and I just click and hold and drag it into my project. Now that I've got what I want, I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. There we go. And you could spend all the time you want in there looking for things. But there you go. There's the basics of working with audio in 3 different ways, both internally inside the DAW and externally outside of the DAW. Go have fun. Go play with sounds. Go play with the audio. Bounce it, cut it, trim it, stretch it, and everything else in between, and have lots of fun. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit like and share.